This episode of the Productivityist podcast is brought to you by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, strength trainers, vegans, and more. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/Vardy. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Productivityist podcast. I am your host, Mike Vardy, and I'm really excited for this episode. I'm excited for most episodes. In fact, I'm excited for all of them, but I'm stoked, I should say, to talk with my friend Marli Williams today on the Productivityist podcast. Now, Marli is over at marliwilliams.com. We have links in the show notes for all this stuff, but I would say she's an adventurous entrepreneur, which she definitely is. She's a wilderness guide and a joy instigator. She's just a fun person. She supports ambitious women in achieving their greatest goals and biggest vision, and embracing the happiness of pursuit. I don't think it's just women that she does this for, but she's definitely focused on that. And she spent 15 years of being a wilderness guide, educator, and mentor. And now she's focusing on what she's most passionate about, which is helping ambitious, driven women fully believe in themselves, their mission, and to be truly seen for what they have to offer the world. There's so much goodness in this episode. Let's not delay any longer. Here's my conversation. I'm really, really stoked to bring it to you with Marli Williams here on the Productivityist podcast. I'd like to welcome Marli Williams to the Productivityist podcast. Marli, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So we've known each other for a few years now because World Domination Summit, I seem to meet like everybody there.
It's the place. It's where all the cool kids hang out.
And you're now in Portland, right?
I am now in Portland. Thank you to the World Domination Summit.
I want to first off, for those out there that don't know who you are and where you got, like we were talking just before we started recording, and you've only been doing this thing for a couple of years now as we record this. But it seems like you've been doing this longer. Like it just not in a bad way either, but in like your name keeps popping up. Could be Facebook, maybe it's the algorithm. I don't know. But but why don't you share a little bit about where you are, like kind of like how you got to where you are a little bit, and then also maybe a little bit more about you so that the audience has a bit of a frame of reference before we dive into our what I think is going to be a fun conversation.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's crazy to think I left my job just a little over 2 years ago. And before setting out on my path as an entrepreneur, speaker, coach, facilitator of awesomeness, I was working full-time at a university as an academic support coordinator for first-generation college students. So essentially, I was a life coach for students that were the first in their family to go to college. It's what I got my master's degree in. So I got my master's degree in higher education. And, I think the interesting thing about my story that feels unique or different than a lot of stories that I hear is I actually liked my job. I had a good job at a university in this beautiful town. And on one hand, it should have quote unquote been enough, or, and it was fulfilling in a lot of ways. I was supporting students. I was helping them find their path and their passion and helping them have a really meaningful educational experience. And yet there was just this deeper desire to make a bigger impact. And I think my biggest why in setting out and leaving university land was one word, and that word is freedom. I wanted to have the freedom to create impactful experiences and programs on my own terms and not have to get 18 signatures and all of this approval from other people to do work that I knew would make an impact. And I got to use the university in a way to test a lot of ideas out. I started an outdoor orientation program for incoming freshmen. And so they went on a week-long backpacking trip to connect with themselves and build community and feel confident going into college. And I ran a TEDx event there, and I did a lot of things. And it was those other things outside of my job that I actually loved. And so my question was, how do I do more of the things that I love to do on my own terms? And I started hiring speakers to come in and talk to our students about things that I tell them every day. And I was like, I'm paying you what, I make in 1 month in 1 hour, And I was like, well, that sounds cool. How do I do that? And so it was all of these like little sparks of inspiration and going to things like the World Domination Summit and Pioneer Nation, where I was meeting other entrepreneurs and coaches and speakers and people that had these businesses. And I was like, well, this is awesome. Like, tell me more, and I was just so intrigued by this whole world. And it really opened up that door for me to step out and step into that. So it's been great.
Would you consider, and this is funny because I start my year, and I want to talk about starting for sure, because people who've listened to the show for a while, follow my work, know that I start my year not in January. So as this was recorded, we're still not in January yet, but we're well into my year at this point, because we're recording this in December of 2017. Which is a good 4 months, almost, well, I guess 3 months since 3-4 months between now and when this episode actually aired. But I found that the World Domination Summit, and I mean, again, this is not a promotional pitch to go buy your tickets now, but I have found that for a lot of people, myself included, is that it becomes that moment either where you make a choice to make a change, or it almost represents like the year-end kind of retreat that you take before you dive back into your work. How did like right when you left WDS, like, was there something about that said, okay, I'm now going to make the change, or was that already kind of in progress?
I think it was definitely in progress. And there was actually like one line from one speaker that just like punched me in the gut. And I can't remember her name. The Simple Green smoothie.
Oh, Jada
yeah.
Sellner. Yep.
And she said, it's more important to take imperfect action than perfect inaction.
Wow. You mentioned that right now, and it's funny because we talked about before we started recording, and then I'll let you jump back in. It hit me. I'm reading my friend Angela Crocker's book, Declutter Your Data, which is an episode you would have been able to listen to a couple months ago. And one of her last, about decluttering your data, one of the last things she says is taking imperfect action. Yeah. It's like that term, I don't know if Giada kind of originated it or whatever, but it's certainly in the zeitgeist for sure. And so when you heard that term, it was the catalyst.
Yeah, I think the reason it hit me so hard probably is because I would call myself a recovering perfectionist. And I think this idea and setting out on my own, I was looking for all of this clarity on my message, who I was serving, what I was doing. And I was letting the lack of clarity get in the way of doing anything. And I was like, I just need to do something. It doesn't even matter what it is. And I think that really sparked me in just like, okay, imperfect action. Like, what is something that I can do? And I started talking to people about like, yeah, I'm speaking and I'm doing leadership development. I remember being at an ultimate Frisbee tournament and someone's like, what are you up to? And I was like, oh, I'm starting to like do speaking engagements and leadership development for college and high school students. And then in that moment, she's like, oh, we have a leadership conference at our high school. Will you come speak at it? And it was like, I started talking. It's like this idea of speaking into the future of the reality you want to create.
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No. It's like
saying it before you're ready to say it, or doing it before you're ready to do it. I remember hearing obviously I love quotes, and it said, courage is doing the thing before you feel ready to do the thing.
Right. Yeah.
And taking those steps means like and that's the piece where you're never going to feel 100% ready, or like this idea of waiting for all the green lights or waiting for all of the clarity, and realizing that clarity comes from taking action. It's not a requirement for it.
Right. Meal planning is important because it prevents us from being a disappointed wreck when dinner time comes around and we have no clue what to make, or even if we have the ingredients to make the meal. It's a time and a money saver, but most importantly, it frees up valuable brain space. Creating a meal plan prepares us for the week to come and gives us peace of mind that we're organized and can feed ourselves and our family. That's why I do it, and that's why Plan to Eat helps me do it. Your subscription includes access to the Plan to Eat website and fully featured mobile apps on iOS and Android. And Plan to Eat gives you the tools to clip and organize recipes from any website, the ones your family loves and that fit your dietary preferences and needs. And you can create a meal plan around your schedule. Then what happens is the Plan to Eat software automatically creates an organized shopping list based on your plan. So sign up for your free trial at plantoeat.com/timecrafting. That's plantoeat.com/timecrafting. The coupon will be automatically applied to your account and can be used when you're ready to subscribe. It's valid for new customers only. Give Plan to Eat a try today. I'd like to take some time now to thank our sponsor for this episode of the Productivityist podcast, and that's Health IQ. Health IQ is an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, weightlifters, and vegetarians get lower rates on their life insurance. Go to healthiq.com/Vardy to support the show and see if you qualify. Now, you have to wonder, with those great special rates that Health IQ offers, is that just great marketing? Nope. No, it's not. It's way better. 56% of Health IQ's clients get their exclusive special rates. They're the only company that's invested in gathering science and data to prove that health-conscious people live longer. So Health IQ is the only place you can find special rates you deserve. But don't just listen to me. Here's a testimonial from Chad P. And he says, my wife and I, she 51, me 48, are very active, and Health IQ helped us secure 15 more years of $750,000 in life insurance for 1/4 of the prices we were quoted before we stumbled on them. Communication was fantastic, and they really did a great job walking alongside us in a process that went much quicker than expected. I also feel they truly worked on our behalf to secure the best ROI for us both. So when Health IQ can make this process so simple and frictionless, there's something to be said for that. In fact, that's something you just can't ignore. Health IQ is also the official partner of several organizations, including USA Weightlifting, Roadrunners Club of America, US Masters Swimming, USA Triathlon, Tennis Industry Association, the American Trail Running Association, and USA Racquetball. So they are backed by a lot of trusted partners. So how do you get started? Well, you can qualify for up to 33% savings by using one or more of the following methods. You can take a Health IQ quiz and you scored the elite level, or you have a membership to one of those qualifying associations I mentioned, or a gym for more than 1 year, and you have to call Health IQ for more details. There's no time like the present to take advantage of what Health IQ has to offer. So to see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/Vardy, or mention the promo code Vardy when you talk to a Health IQ agent. I'd like to thank Health IQ for sponsoring this episode of the Productivityist podcast. Now let's get back to the show. One of the things that I find incredibly invigorating that you do is exactly that. You're taking action with you're I wouldn't say you're throwing caution to the wind. You might think that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are. But I mean, you're doing I mean, last year you did this camp called Camp Yes, right, for women. Mm-hmm. And you're not doubling down, you're multiply going down this year with more of those camps. How is that? Like, was that something that you just decided? Because I mean, we're thinking about starting an event up here. You know, I've got my wife and I, we've been to a couple events now, and it's like something that we've considered. But like, again, was that this idea of I want to do this, I'm going to start where, before I'm ready and see where it leads me. And now that I've done, like, cause you've done at least one at this point, mm-hmm. But are you like, is that kind of is that kind of the way that you've operated with this and true to form? Is that the way you kind of have operated with a lot of the things you've put together over the last couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, I think our inspiration to me is part of our intuition, like speaking through. Mm-hmm. And the idea of like being inspired, I was like, I want to put on a summer camp for women. And so I did it. And it's like, it can feel overwhelming at first, but it's like, okay, I need a place, I need a website, I need people to sign up
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go from there. Because I value in-person connection and in-person experiences so much. And to me, Camp Yes is the combination of everything that I love. Bringing people together in beautiful places, being outside in nature and talking about what really matters, and having fun doing it. And that, like, so much of the conferences I go to or events that I go to, they're in conference rooms, they're in hotel lobbies, they're in like fluorescent lighting, just places like they're okay. But for me, being outside, being in nature is really the place where I feel the most connected. And so it's like, I believe so strongly in the idea that, like, I think that this is what people need. We are the most connected we've ever been, but I think the most hungry for real connection, and honestly, like, for thousands of years, we sat around fires and we told stories. Like, that is so much part of our human nature. And I think that conviction and that belief is what drives me to action,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And I think I go to a lot of events like the World Domination Summit that happen like once a year. And I'm like, well, what if there was this tribe, this community that met more than once a year, that had these 3 places that we met on the West Coast. And we got to, like, really walk through this path, like, together, and not just say, like, see you in a year. And a lot can happen in that amount of time. But I was like, well, what if we had more opportunities for people to have that experience, to, like, reconnect with themselves, reconnect with this community, and, like, kind of have these checkpoints throughout the year instead of waiting an entire year. And so that was really what inspired me to think, like, okay, let's do 3 and see what happens. So that's what we're up to this year, and we'll see how that goes.
So you put this, by the way, one of my favorite conferences I've been to, and it's still in the back of my mind. It's not something I'll probably go to again just because of where my kind of path has shifted a bit. But there was a conference called Max FunCon that happened on Lake Arrowhead, and it was exactly like, we had cabins, and it was comedy and craft making. And I mean, I got one of the coolest things ever, which I now get to say, is that I met Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, and the writer of The Last Jedi, and now he's going to be doing like all 3, the next trilogy, at Max FunCon. Like, this it's one of those things where people are like, oh yeah, like, I met him. Yeah. I drank Malort with John Hodgman. Like, I mean, I've heard what Maria Bamford's actual voice sounds like. Like, things like that. But you don't get. I mean, and that's that Jesse Thorne cultivated a really cool experience there, and that's been going. And they've expanded it to not just be in Lake Arrowhead, but also in the Poconos, every year. So it's a Max FunCon East, Max FunCon West, and they're very different. It's a different kind of event, where, and I think that I mean, the fact that you're doing these also, it's a summer camp, but on the West, there's parts of the West Coast where it could feel like summer all year long, but you're not tethering it to, and I think that this is where people get caught. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is they get caught with the idea that there's this box, right? Like, time is kind of like this. I should go on vacation during spring break in March because that's when people go on vacation. Or I should go to camp in summer because that's when summer camp happens, and that's really where it should be. Like, people get caught with the preconceived or the predetermined notions that are out there, which is, again, why when people, like, I was talking to Charlie Gilkey, a mutual friend of ours. And I was on his show a few months ago, and during the back and forth with him and his with me and his assistant, as she listened to the podcast, she goes, "I never dawned on me to start my year in September. Like, I've just always thought January. Why? Like, how do you?" I think, and I want to talk about the fun component, because I find that by starting my year in September, I can tether it with my kids' school year. And therefore, my summers are more fun because I'm spending them with my kids. But it also, I can actually tackle on bigger things starting September because I'm not waiting at the gym. If I'm going to start exercising in September, if I'm going to do New Year's resolutions, I'm not going to be the one sitting there in September going, boy, this gym is too busy because everyone's doing this right now. I think there's some fun element to, like, going, thinking, bending those boundaries or thinking beyond that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we were playing with for this camp that just happened when this podcast airs, we're doing a camp in February. in San Diego. And this idea of like, why wait until summer for summer camp? And especially for people that live in the Northwest, it's like everyone is like so hungry for some sort of vitamin D or sunshine that I figured like, I mean, getting on a plane and going to San Diego for a weekend, like why wouldn't you want to do that? And I think that as part of being an entrepreneur and being creative, I'm already speaking at an event in February in San Diego. And it's like, what would bring more, how can I make that more fun and financially impactful to put on my own event on the back end of speaking at an event? And so I think, and thinking about productivity and fun, looking at like what feels good and what feels exciting. And I think that I was like, well, that's something that I would want to do. And so I'm hoping that other people want that too. And I think playing off these expectations that people have around summer camp and when it can happen, and I can only relax in the summer. And like, I think the winter is a great time to like, yeah, we need that too, you know, because winter people can go into like hibernation mode, but it's like, oh, what if I had like 4 days on the beach in the sunshine and got to go surfing and run around and yeah.
So let's talk about fun a bit as we get closer to the end here. How much, you seem to be somebody that like, if you want it to be 100% fun as much as possible, like
as much as possible, that's my goal.
But I think that there's a way for it to feel like it's 100% fun. Like, how do you, I mean, and in our bonus episode, I want to talk more about your quotes, because I think that that's something that we could dive into a little bit. But how can you, like, what are some of the things that you do to make what you do and how you help others make it feel like what they're doing is 100% fun? Let's just use that as kind of like the jumping off point. Yeah.
I think one of my, speaking of quotes, I always say, if I'm not having fun, I'm doing it wrong. And I think that makes me look at where and how can I bring more fun and joy into not just the experience, but even in creating the experience. So it's more fun for me to have a conversation about camp than it is to sit in front of my computer and write copy. So I'm going to get on the phone and say, hey, like, how can we promote camp? I'm going to get because that human connection is more fun for me than being alone or being in isolation. So that's one piece. And then I think in this world of like in personal development, personal improvement, personal, like, you know, growth, it can feel really heavy. It can feel really serious. It can feel really exhausting, almost like overwhelming, and kind of like this big should. Yeah. I should be more productive. I should be more together. I should, you know, use my time better. I should like have more figured out or whatever. And it's like, because the thing that's tricky, I think, for people is the knowledge is out there already.
Right.
If we want to learn how to do something, if we want to like learn how to manage our time better, like we can find it, right? Like we can access that information, but implementing it can be really challenging. And so asking that question of like, okay, if I do want to manage my time better or be more productive, and I make that fun or enjoyable, like how can I actually make that process something that I could look forward to rather than something that I dread?
Right.
And I think asking that question is like, how do we make personal growth fun via camp? Because camp, we're running around and we're playing games and we're doing silly things, but we're also asking big questions like, what does it mean to say yes to yourself? And what would be possible if you did? And what do you need to say no to? And we're asking that all at the same time as like people are stand-up paddleboarding with like magical floaty unicorns on a lake, you know? And so it's like, we can do this work and we can, you know, improve ourselves and keep getting better. But it's like, are we enjoying the journey, or are we just trying to get to the end goal, the end destination? It's like, how much am I enjoying the process of creating camp just as much as going to camp?
Right.
Or and how much I, you know, like,
and if it doesn't fit, then you just toss it, right? Or you evolve it, I guess, one or the other, right?
Right. Exactly. And so I think with habit change or behavior change, thinking like, you know, it might not be 100% fun all the time, but how do I bring more fun into it? Or like I said, make it more enjoyable so that I actually do the things I want to do rather than feeling like I'm just beating myself up about what I'm not doing. You know?
So more fun in done and more fun than done in some respects, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to look at it. Last question. All right.
Mhm.
So clearly, if you're planning an event like this, and I'm sure, some of you out there are probably thinking, okay, this is all great, Marli. You've got this great idea for this camp, and then it's just going to manifest. Clearly, when you've have a decision and you've decided that like you said, you put up the landing page, you get people to sign up. Once it crystallizes into something that's going to be real, like it's no longer an ideal, but it's real. What do you do? Because there's got to be some practicality and some tactical components to it. It's not just something that, you can't just throw an event together. So can you share with everyone here kind of the idea of, okay, it's happening now. Here's where I put my doer hat on, without forgetting the fun part, because that's a critical component. But here's how I take it from concept to construct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing there are so many pieces and so many details with events.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing is knowing what you're good at and getting people to support you on the things that you're not, right?
Right.
I have a woman, Molly, who helps me with the graphics, the logos, the websites, the design, and also with some of the nuts and bolts of here's what needs to get done and when. So we have, a timeline. We're launching play shop applications and counselor applications and scholarships. And I'm reaching out for sponsors for camp right now, getting the venue dialed in and getting the deposit paid, which feels terrifying because it's feel no matter how many people show up, you owe us this much money. And
Yep.
It's ah! But I think the biggest thing that because right now, to be real, there's 3 people signed up for camp. Does that terrify me? Hell yeah. I'm oh God, is anybody going to come? This idea of we have this idea, we put it out in the world, and that question, is anyone going to come?
Yeah.
And this happened for our first camp too. Yeah. And I remember telling Molly, I was the only thing that we can do is believe that they will.
Yep.
And keep taking action, because I can totally get into fear mode and doubt mode and say, screw it, let's back out now while we can. Or I could I can fully 2 feet in, 100% in, all in, and say, we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And with my full heart and conviction to know this is what I'm up to. And I think it's I do a lot of personal outreach, and I send videos to people and say, hey, I'd love to have you at camp, or hey, have you thought about this? Or hey, I saw that you live in San Diego. There's this thing going on. And because people are so bombarded with so much messaging, and then I think that people just want to be heard and seen and appreciated, and to say hey, it would be amazing to have you there.
Mm-hmm.
Literally me sending a personal message that takes me 15 seconds. Can be super, super powerful. So I think it's both this the strategic logistics, and then it's this mindset piece, and really believing in what you're creating and what you're putting out there.
And I think the other last story I want to share, and I think that this is it shows that things don't just you got to stick with it. Things don't just happen right from the get-go. Not always. I did a workshop in London. I planned a workshop in London while I was there for a conference. And I said, we're going to do this thing. And leading up to the event, and yeah, there was some promotional stuff that I probably could have done better. I had one person that signed up. One. So instead, I could have canceled it. I could have. Yeah. Instead, I canceled the space, because I used Breather for this, which is, by the way, a great tool if you're going to do some indoor stuff, because you can cancel within 2 hours of the booking. But also, what I did was I contacted the person who purchased the ticket and said, would you like to just meet with me for 2 to 3 hours, and we'll just do this 1-to-1, and you're going to get you're going to have my undivided attention. And that was appreciated. So it wasn't I gave them the choice. They said yes. So there's ways. And the thing is, I'm not deterred. I actually asked them at the end, was this valuable? He goes, oh yeah, absolutely. I would totally. So it often these scenarios where they don't crystallize, or they don't turn out exactly the way you want. If you go in with the right, mission in mind, for lack of a better term, and the right idea, then the outcome is going to be something that is still incredibly, it can be incredibly valuable, and even, like, for lack of a better term, fun. Like, I had fun. We actually went to the pub after and had a couple beers and chatted about some more stuff. So I think that there's some following through is such a big piece. Marli, people are going to be able to, I want people to be able to sign up for future camps and things like that. So where can people find out more about your camps and find out more about you?
Yeah. So to find out more about camp, you can go to campyesforwomen.com. And that's where you can find out about when camp is happening, how to sign up. And if you want to find out more about me, coaching, speaking, etc., you can go to my website, which is marliwilliams.com. And that's MARLI Williams.com. So those are the two places you can find me.
Awesome. Marli, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Marli for joining me on the show today. One of the things that happened after we did this interview, and I didn't really talk about it here or in the bonus episode, which of course you can listen to if you are a member of the Productivityist community. Just head over to productivityist.com/membership to learn more. If you want to become a member, there's lots of perks and stuff that are involved with it. So head over that out. But Marli has these Stoke quotes, and of course we're linking to those in the show notes. But I got one last year at Think Better, Live Better, and it was like, may you blow them away with your presence. And it was great because I was the closing speaker, and I'd like to think I did that. And this year I was talking about how to sidestep the suck of stuckness. And Marli closed the event off. And at the end, she gave everybody a Stoke quote. It was like kind of underneath all the chairs. And I wasn't sitting, but there was an empty chair that was, I looked at it. I'm like, well, I'll just take the one from under there. And the quote was, "You are not stuck." And I thought, wow, like that's just killer. She talks about this 1 degree shift. There's lots of stuff that we could talk about deeper with Marli, and I hope to have her back on the show again in the not too distant future. But for now, again, check out the show notes, check out everything she's got going on, and you won't regret it. She's a fantastic person, and she's just such a amazing ball of energy. It's addictive when you're around her. And I hope you got that out of this episode as well. What I got out of this episode is, again, big props to my producer, John Polster, for putting it together. He's throwing ads in and all that stuff. So again, big thanks to him. Big thanks to my team, Jim Woods and Claire, for putting together the actual text of the show and making it so that I can kind of focus on the interviews and, talking about it and, all that stuff. And big thanks to you for listening and for joining me here this week and hopefully every week. Again, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever good podcasts or all podcasts are available. And, again, just thanks for joining me. Until next time, I am Mike Vardy, the host of the Productivityist podcast and the founder of Productivityist, reminding you to stop guessing and start going.